And now it is time to welcome our first guest and influencer today in a segment we call Pawparazzi. All right, dog moms, Karoline May is the founder of Dog Mom Mentality. It's a brand that is focused on helping people create healthy habits for a positive mindset. We all need that, right? Well, for the past couple of years, Caroline has been sharing her mental health journey online, and she joins us now from Lexington, Kentucky. Hello, Caroline. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well, kind of in the middle of the day here, so this is a nice little midday break for me. I'm enjoying it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. We're so happy to have you with us. I'm curious, when did your love for dogs start?
Oh, this is a great question. So I had a dog growing up. I actually had, I guess, two growing up. One, my father got after my parents divorced, and I really just grew up with the one dog, though. He was a toy poodle. His name was Shakespeare, and I got him because I wanted a family member, a dog who had the same color hair as me. So if you can't tell, my hair is like a little bit of a reddish tint, and my mom nor my dad had this red colored hair, and so I said I wanted a dog that had the same color hair as me. So that was just a family dog growing up. I didn't really do, anything, just like the ordinary.
Was Shakespeare nice? I mean, or was he rather formal? Like I think of Shakespeare. Literature.
He was a little prissy pup. He definitely pranced around, but he didn't do the hikes that we do now, and the longer walks and the tricks and this whole idea of like enrichment and mental stimulation, all the things that like dog owners do now. Like we did not do that for our dog, and so it was just a very like ordinary kind of dog ownership situation. But I was a child, and my mom and really took care of him for the most part. So actually, whenever we got our dog Layla, my boyfriend, now husband, at the time, he was the one who initiated it, and I was kind of indifferent. We were in college, and
oh boy.
Yeah. And we lived apart, and I said, okay, well, if you want to get a dog, like I can help take care of it, but I'm really just here for like the cute puppy pictures and to be like, around a cute dog. I didn't really want to do the responsibility type of things like the vet and, bathing and that kind of stuff. I didn't want to do like the hard work.
Keeping it real. You're like, hey buddy, like you do the hard things, I'll do the fun things. Okay?
Exactly. And so that was kind of our agreement until the pandemic happened, and then some, I really started to take over in different areas. But going back to your question of was I always a dog person, I'd say probably not. Like compared to kind of how I am now, I'm nowhere. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm not a dog person to what I am now.
I love that, you've changed. You've changed as a person and a human, and you have a different dog too, which may lend itself to a stronger bond. So when you look at then and you look at now, you were dating and now you're married, you're still together. So that's a really good sign that things went well, right? So let's put that out there. But the pandemic hit, you got married. What happened with this special animal and now your devotion to helping people create a more positive mindset and enjoy their animals and life more?
Yeah, so whenever the pandemic hit, I knew I was going to work from home. My whole company, it's a tech company, and we all just worked from home. We all went remote, and it was no big deal. But my husband, he works more physically with things. He's an electrical engineer, so he's dealing with the wires and the automations and all of the toys, I say. And so he's dealing with all of the hardware, and so he has to actually go into an office most of the time. And so he was going in, and I was with Layla 24/7 because I worked from home. It was the pandemic. Besides work, we really didn't do a whole lot. And we had just moved into our house in Lexington, and it was a really big shift from the couple of months beforehand because we were quarantined. We lived at my mother's house. It was very quiet. We lived in a very quiet neighborhood, and we moved to Lexington, which is a little bit more of a city. And we started to, hear more sounds, see more people. Skateboards were a really big thing that Layla had never seen before. And her reactivity and behavioral issues had really just skyrocketed. And some of them, had me embarrassed. Some of them had me feeling isolated. And some of them just had me feeling downright frustrated. And growing up, I've been an only child, and I've always really had control of the outcome of situations that I was affected.
Control. Right.
Yeah, control, right? And so,
yes.
Yeah, so
it's amazing what being a dog mom can expose in us, right? That
exactly.
Loss of control must have been really uncomfortable for you.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was getting at, is that, this was like the very first thing in my life that was mine. Like, the work that I was putting in just didn't match what I expected the outcome to be, because I felt like I was putting in so much work, like I've always done throughout the rest of my life. And this time I just didn't have total control over it, because she is her own living, breathing, feeling thing, right?
Yes.
I couldn't control her emotions, which was really driving a lot of her behavior.
And what breed is Layla? I didn't ask that yet.
Yeah, so she is an Australian Shepherd mix.
Oh.
So if you look at her, she looks like an Aussie. She's a blue merle. But she actually has a mix of herding breeds in her. So she's about 50% Aussie, and then the other 50% are other herding breeds like cattle dog, GSD, collie.
Super active, super smart, and she has those needs that you're talking about.
Right. And I just didn't know how to handle a lot of those, because I grew up with a very simple toy poodle.
Right.
If it started barking, you just picked it up, and you can't pick up a 55, 60 pound dog while they're barking at a skateboard or running in the opposite direction, because they're so scared.
Right. And I love that you could have said, this just isn't a good fit. This just isn't for me. But no, you're a serious dog mom, and you said, I'm going to figure out how to make this work for Layla and for our family. And not only that, you took something hard and you turned it into something good, where you're really helping a lot of people. So share with us, though, what dog mom mentality means to you, because I know you're doing a lot of awesome things.
Yeah, so, kind of after that, and I wanted to mention, we actually had a moment where we kind of questioned, do we rehome, do we keep her? But obviously we decided to keep her, and it was the best thing ever. But it definitely was a question of like, how willing am I to put in the work, to put in the physical and mental work, because I've learned, and that's kind of how dog mom mentality came to be, was the amount of mental and emotional work that can go into dog ownership, especially for those who may feel like, they're a people pleaser or a perfectionist, those kinds of people. If you're out and about and your dog has a reaction, it's so easy to feel the frustration or the embarrassment or guilty at times, right? Yes. The shame. Yeah. And so really what dog mom mentality means to me is learning how to, take these lessons that you're learning as a dog owner and apply them to other areas of your life. So one of the things that I've been utilizing is like boundary setting, for instance. And I grew up a major people pleaser, and, boundary setting was very hard. And so I started to set boundaries for and with Layla, around who was allowed to come up to her and get her excited, just because sometimes that would make life a little bit more difficult if people got her excited, or if a skateboarder came too close, different things like that, right? Another dog came too close. But then also setting boundaries with her, like, no, she can't do this, no, she can't do that kind of thing, right?
And being consistent with those
and being
boundaries, that's huge.
Right. And so, but those ended up transitioning into other areas of my life, like work or with family, and really being able to have the confidence to set those boundaries with them. And so at the end of the day, it's taking these lessons that I've learned from being a dog owner and applying them to other areas of my life, so that I can live a more intentional and fulfilling life, you know, with Layla, with my dog, and then outside of life as well.
I love that. You know, we live in kind of, at times, I don't want to say all the time, but a plastic and artificial world where people tend to put out there only the things that are going well, only the things that look perfect and really nice. What made you decide to kind of let people in and to be vulnerable and share those ups and downs? Was it a craving for authenticity, or did you kind of put your finger to the pulse of a need, or what was it?
Yeah, I love to say that I created what my past self needed. And so
Okay.
it was definitely from a need inside of me to want to talk more about mental health and emotions, but I didn't know how to come right out and say that. And so talking about it through the lens of dog ownership really gave me an outlet to do it from a more I'm losing the word, relatable way, in a more relatable way that people understood. It was a little bit easier to understand than just talking about, you know, anxiety and anxiety by itself versus anxiety about the vet and how, right. And like tools that I'm using to, you know, alleviate my anxiety about the vet with Layla, because, you know, my anxiety could make her anxiety flare up and different things can happen. I might not be able to guide her to the best of my abilities if I'm stressed and anxious. And those tools that I'm using for the vet office per se, I can use any other time that I'm anxious, right? So like journaling, reflecting, doing like a body scan, breath work, all of those different things, and really tying them in to just taking it through the lens of a dog owner and making it more relatable.
That is so helpful. I mean, what has the reaction been from your audience as you allow them to go on this journey with you?
Probably the biggest reaction is the response of, thank you for, you know, putting this out there. I felt so alone in this. Right. Or, you know, I'm so tired of being misunderstood. You know, a lot of that feeling alone, feeling misunderstood, feeling like they would be judged if they were to say, you know, their dog made them frustrated today, because dogs are supposed to only improve our lives. But there are things that happen that can make us frustrated because of something either our dog did or just related to our dog, right? Yes. And it doesn't have to be something that our dog did in general, right? And so I think, you know, just talking about that and then learning how to use like tangible tips and tools and actions to help with that, like the mindfulness and reflection, is really just probably the biggest response. Like, you know, thank you for making me feel less alone, and thank you for these tools and tips to actually improve our lives together.
Yes. Now, you mentioned some of these, but if you could just give us some practical tips for positive mindset and healthy habits. Just walk us through kind of your main points that you tend to drive home time and time again.
Mm-hmm. Probably one of my biggest things is just about being more intentional. And so that's with, you know, a lot of people think of intentionality whenever you're thinking of like goal setting, or if you're thinking of, you know, what the outcome you want to be. And so I feel like a lot of people, especially dog owners, they go in and set these goals of, I want my dog to win X amount of trick titles, and I want us to do this many sport events, and I want them to, you know, be able to do X, Y, and Z for whatever. And a lot of people forget the why. Why do I even care about that? Is it because so-and-so does it on Instagram and I want to be able to hang out with that and talk with that crowd on Instagram? Or is it because I think my dog will actually enjoy it and I think I would actually enjoy it? Like, will it actually benefit our lives, or will it just be there so that they feel a part of the crowd and or don't feel, you know, left out in some way? Or like, is it because you feel like you should be doing that, or you feel like you may be embarrassed if you don't do that? You know, whatever the case may be, just like kind of really going into that why, and that and being more intentional about, you know, why you want to do it and how you want to feel after achieving that thing, right? And so
having that vision of the outcome and the benefit. Because sometimes what I've learned is that getting started is the hardest part. Creating new healthy habits, it takes time. You can't just do it once. It's more that, like you said, intentional living and saying, okay, I'm literally going to schedule, if I have to, playtime with my dog. And in the end, it's going to strengthen our bond, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. And so you mentioned another one. Play is just a huge thing for us. And it's really helped us overcome a lot of different challenges. And I could talk for hours about play. So I'm not going to, but I definitely could.
Play with your dog, everybody. You'll love it. Worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And then I think just the last thing is just taking time to reflect on what you're doing, if it's working, if it's sticking, taking a moment to pause and really assess like where you're at and if you are still feeling good about what you're doing with your dog. And then just reflection in general. That could be because you've had a bad day, or maybe you want to reminisce on something that happened and you don't want to forget it. And you can do that in many different ways. You can make a video, pictures, journal, make a voice chat, whatever it is. Reflection can really help you get out your feelings and process those. And especially for those harder, messier, uglier feelings, it's really, really important to reflect and process those.
That's beautiful. And it's helpful to look back and say, wow, I've really come a long way in a sense, or here's what I have to be grateful for today. Sometimes we can get bogged down by all the things that aren't going right. But if you bond with your dog and, just give them a hug, sometimes even just the being with them just makes everything better. But I do love that whole intentional aspect of living that you're talking about. That is so important and so helpful. So I have a question for you, Karoline. How are you measuring your own personal success, or what will you say, or like when you look at where you are and what you're doing? I know you're like a recovering perfectionist, but how do you measure success, and where do you see yourself taking the brand in the future?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think like the first thing I'm going to say is just the difference in my mental health from starting dog mom mentality or pre-dog mom mentality to where I am now. And this, doesn't even have to do so much with dog ownership, but because I've dove into it so much through dog mom mentality and have taken the time to be more intentional and reflective and practice these things and like show up for myself to show up for my dog kind of thing.
Yes.
I've just seen a huge shift in my mental health and my reactions, my recovery time. It initially started off by judging and tracking Layla's reactions, like what were they to, how long did they last, how severe was it, how intense was it, whether it be to another dog or a skateboarder or whatever, to tracking my reactions and thinking, did I recover from that well? Did I have a better response? Did I communicate that better? Was I able to actually listen instead of overanalyzing? All of these things that can really make up like a more mentally healthy life, like the communication, the boundary setting, the emotional processing. All of that has just grown immensely for me over the past 2 to 3 years that I've really embraced dog mom mentality as a personal brand and dove into it. But there's a lot of things that I've put out there to help myself and help others over the past couple of years. So I have a shirt line which is really there to empower other dog owners with different kinds of reminders. Like one of them is boundaries are cool. One of them is the one that I'm wearing, the train your dog, play with your dog. And then I have another one that says Dog Mom Support Club. And so they're all really there just to kind of empower you and remind you that you're confident as a dog owner and that other people are there with you. And then I also have a journal out, which is there to help you process your emotions and do some goal setting and intention setting and a wins tracker in the back. And that's specifically made for dog owners. And so if you have a reactive dog or a new dog, it would be perfect for those owners to really get the journal and dive into that. And then I also have my own podcast, which is just the extension of a brand where I talk about or I bring on guests and talk to them and have solo episodes all about how dogs have emotionally affected us.
Karoline May, you are a busy lady and you are rocking it and doing great things. We have so enjoyed having this time with you and celebrating your success. And just thank you for what you're doing to help dog moms live healthier lives. It's just really awesome. Karoline May of Dog Mom Mentality. Thank you, Karoline.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks so much for watching this Dog Mom News clip. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome and informative Dog Mom News content. And while you're at it, ring the bell so that you can find out about more content in real time. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, everyone.